Well, it's the season for bringing guests to our home or traveling to other people's homes as guests. And besides our smiles and best wishes, chances are somewhere in the exchange there will be gifts of food or wine. And to help us with the choice of wine, we have often gone to Natalie McLean. But she has more for us to take along now. A new book that we can present to our hosts entitled Unquenchable. In this book, she reminds us that behind every wine there is a person and a story, something that makes it all come alive. And she joins us from her home in Ottawa today. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
Very well. And yourself?
Oh, good. You know what? I'm just back from Halifax. It was so good to be home again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and did you get the storm?
No, I missed that.
Oh.
It was the day before I arrived, so I was there on Thursday, and so the snow had been cleared. Yeah.
Well, that's good. You know, as I went through the book, it reminded me a little of other books that have been popular, and I'm thinking of Eat, Pray, Love, or A Year in Provence, or the chapters that weren't about war and Captain Corelli's Mandolin, because there was lots of writing about people. And people in the context of what they serve. There's more narrative here, more than just a guide to pairings. Tell me about why you did that.
I'm glad you noticed, Wendy. I thought that if I found the most colorful, iconic, memorable people in the wine industry, and specifically winemakers, that if I told their story, I could tell the story of wine in a more entertaining way. Because I think, first and foremost, a book about wine has to entertain. Education is a distant second. But I think, as you follow their stories, you do pick up and learn quite a bit about wine.
Now, the people that we meet are winemakers, but they're not all people who come from generations and generations and generations of winemakers who've lived in this same valley forever. They come and go in and out of the industry, which I think is a little interesting.
It is. I think, wine for a lot of people, winemaking is a sunny second career. There are a lot of refugees from other industries. I think there's a romantic notion about making wine. The reality is it's fancied up farming. There's no other way to put it because it's very seasonal depending on the weather and all that sort of thing. But, the notions are sitting on my veranda looking at my lovely wine label. But nonetheless, it does attract people who are passionate about getting into the industry, making something from the earth. And so to that end, they bring this wealth of experience often from other places, other industries, and invest their energy into wine. So they make for terrific profiles and interviews.
Tell me about somebody who came from an industry that you never would have thought to be paired with wine.
Well, there's Martin Malivar from Niagara, who was a special effects maker for the film industry. So he made a lot of the the 3D and special effects that you see in the movies, whether someone's, water skiing and not really water skiing and so on. But he was drawn to the wine industry because his first love was cooking. And he loved that because it was real. After a day, as he says, of blowing up people and killing off characters, this was something real he could do. And so wine was a natural extension of his passion for cooking and working with fine ingredients and local materials. And I just thought that was interesting because he really wanted to get down to reality, so to speak, with making wine.
But it's one thing to be in your kitchen mucking about with pasta sauce and quite another to go out and buy yourself a big chunk of Niagara.
Yeah, that is a bit of a leap. Not all of us make it. But, Martin was originally from Niagara, and so I think it was an extension of digging deeper, if you will, into his own backyard and the place where he had come from. So, I think all of us, or not all of us, but a lot of us toy with the idea, but someone who is from a winemaking region, I think it's a much shorter leap for them to make.
There is a joy in every one of these people. You can see that there's something in them, but there are also financial realities. And I was really interested in how the value of the peso determined what gets done in terms of what we see on the wine shelves.
Right. And so in Argentina, the peso has gone on a roller coaster ride, but in general, for the past well, 5, 10 years, maybe further back, our Canadian dollar has always been a lot stronger, which means that Argentine wine is very inexpensive. So they already have cost advantages when it comes to production in that land is cheaper there, labor costs are low, they don't have to fight against climatic challenges like rotten mildew and a bad vintage. But you couple that with a very low foreign exchange in terms of, that makes their wines inexpensive, and it really gives them a way into a market because everybody's going to sample. It's a no-risk proposition, trying that Argentine Malbec for $7, $12. So that really helps a region get established.
And those Argentine Malbecs are sold really well here in Cape Breton. People buy them with turkey.
Absolutely.
I keep hearing this is a $30 wine in a $12 bottle.
Exactly.
Which leads me to ask, am I getting the question that wasn't answered in this book is, am I getting a $12 wine in a $35 bottle if I buy it from some other more prestige area?
Oh, good question, Wendy. It really does depend on the wine. So you are paying for prestige, rarity, collectability when you're talking about badge name regions like Bordeaux, Tuscany, Napa Valley. But that's not to say they're not worth it. It's just that in that sweet spot range of $10 to $20 these days, you can get wines that taste twice as expensive. And you're not paying so much for the intangibles. You're paying for the real cost of production and the efficiencies that those regions offer because of low labor or, a sunny climate all the time. So, yeah, with that $35 bottle, I wouldn't get too overly suspicious. But, when they are coming from these established regions, brand names command a higher price.
We only have about a minute. But can you tell me about how South Africa changed the perception of the place? I thought that was a fascinating story.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's one of the insider tips at the end of the book. As you know, there's the story, but then at the end I say, here's why this region is a good value and to look for it in the liquor store. South Africa, maybe a little bit like Germany, is overcoming a dismal reputation from a decade or two ago. In their case, of course, they were out of the market for years because of apartheid. And now, in the last 10 years, they've really turned it around in terms of the quality of the wines and the perception. They finally can import both technology and expertise so that they're learning so fast in their winemaking industry, and yet their costs are low. So they are terrific at Shiraz and Sauvignon Blanc, two of the most popular wines here, and they're really worth having a look.
Well, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, absolutely, Wendy. And if your listeners are thirsty, I've posted these bargain wines on my site at nataliemclean.com.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
That's Natalie McLean. The book is called Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Best Bargain Wines, and it does read a little like Under the Tuscan Sun or Captain Corelli's Mandolin, the recipe parts.